Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan, and again, you Skaven fans are getting a lot of attention as a new Skaven faction mod has just dropped. This is Clan Crooktail, a Skaven clan which makes use of a lot of random mechanics. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting if you like playing with the dice, essentially. But let's not waste too much time here, let's just jump straight into the faction effects. Growth plus 10 in settlements with frozen climates. Growth plus 10 in settlements with chaotic wasteland climates, diplomatic relations plus 20 with the Warriors of Chaos, and Norska. Chaotic wasteland and frozen climates are suitable climates. Finally, warlords, packmasters, and chieftains will potentially receive mutations after selecting certain skills. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, when we jump into the lord effects, this is where things get really interesting. The influence of the Chaos Waste has shaped and molded Vikas in ways unstable and uncertain. He will start with one random trait from a custom list. Yeah, things are going to get really different here, as anytime that you do start a campaign with this faction, yeah, you might have a different trait. And thankfully, the modder Stratovarius has been able to provide me with a list with what they do. So you've got Well-Spoken, plus 30 diplomatic relations with Chaos Dwarfs, Chorfs, and Norska, Leadership Aura plus 10, and plus 50% size for Leadership Aura, Brawler, plus 10 to lots of combat stats, Berserk and Fluid Injection abilities, Warp Beacon, Winds of Magic increase faction-wide, gains several Law of Ruin spells to cast. Yes, this is a melee character, but he can also become a hybrid. Blessings of the Unseen, Aura of Stealth, hard for enemy agents to stab, and gets his army to get Vanguard like Vlad von Karstein. Spawn Seeker, Rat Spawns, this is a new unit, are much cheaper to recruit and upkeep across faction-wide. And finally, provide Encourage to all nearby units. Favored in Skaven Blight, gives you plus 30 diplomatic relations with the Skaven, start relations and trade agreements with all council clans too. Aetheric Caller, much faster global recruitment faction-wide, all units start with one extra mutation too. Agent of the Dark Gods, penalty to relations with the Skaven, unfortunately, but you get one personal bonus ability for each Dark God to the Waste Lord. Corrupted Constructor, buildings are far cheaper, get bonus on food. Entire faction, however, cost plus 25% more in upkeep though. So yeah, you get some bonuses, but you do get some negatives. And finally, we do have Delver. Can expand the Under Empire every 2 turns. Personally expands the Under Empire when in an enemy province, and adds free clan rats to every Under Empire war camp. So yeah, loads and loads of bonuses here, and it's kind of cool because it gives you an element of randomness which will continue into your campaign. So start position wise, you're in the Eastern Steppes, which means that you're on the Northern Wastes, and you've got some potential allies there with some Chaos factions. Obviously you've got some direct enemies with the Cathayans down to your south. You very much have options of what you want to do. Do you want to actually go into Cathay, or do you want to expand through the Chaos Waste and take that and create your own Under Empire? One thing is very certain, you can actually go into Grand Cathay without worrying too much that other factions are going to turn against you, thanks to the diplomatic relations bonus. Plus, if you get lucky, you can get even more with them, and you'll be a lot safer. At a first glance, your character, your legendary lord, is going to be a basic melee character, you know, all the usual stuff that you're already used to. Obviously, you have to keep into account that you do have the random trait, which could turn around how your campaign works, but let's carry on for the character specifically. Stat-wise, he's pretty good. He's able to go up close and personal without too much of an issue, though keep in mind that the AI will start to target him. Now, you do have a unique skill line, which gives you basically no context, as it's going to focus on more random generation here. You'll be able to get yourself some bonuses, and I like this system. I like the element of randomness. It adds something completely new to Total War. You obviously do have access to 2 items, which you'll be able to pick up later on as you level up through your campaign, but the element of randomness is one of the best reasons to play as this faction, and it continues on to everything else. So level up the character as much as you want and unlock all the different random stuff there. There are 6 random mutations that you can get with this character, after which you just have to go down back into the main game, you know, into the world map overview and so on, and you'll have traits. Some of the traits will be quite strong, some of them will be not so strong. It does vary as far as I see. There's a lot of random stuff here, but everything that I've found so far is actually quite cool. I love the idea of this. Again, very, very unique. Something that we haven't really seen in Total War before, at least to my knowledge. Now, mutations are also implemented for warlords, packmasters, and chieftains, but in a different way. The skills will remain the same. There's no unique skill line. In fact, as you progress through your character, as you start doing the usual stuff of leveling them up, you'll naturally be getting them as you start unlocking skill points, which I think is a pretty good system, as it doesn't really mean that you have to dump skill points anywhere else. And as you've been able to see on screen, the mutations and randomness do not stop here, as you can get mutations randomly as you start recruiting infantry troops and so on. So for example here, you can see a bunch of Skaven slaves that I've been recruiting, and yeah, some of them have really good mutations, some of them are more not so good. It does depend, really. This is a bit of an expansion, I guess, to the Chaos Mutations mod, also by Stratovarius. So with this, you could potentially end up with some truly terrifying Skaven slaves, or some really weak ones. Same things could be said about your legions of storm vermin. It very much depends, and again, pretty cool system. It's random, and I know some people don't like the random effects, but I found this extremely charming because it's kind of like rolling a dice to see a chaos boon, like you used to do on the tabletop, and I imagine we'll hopefully do again in Old World. Now, this mod does include one new unit, which you can recruit fairly early into your campaign. These are rat spawns. And yeah, it makes sense for the Skaven, at least the Skaven faction, to have access to Skaven Chaos Spawn, considering, yeah, they live in the Northern Chaos Waste, they're getting mutated heavily, which the Skaven naturally do anyway in the Northern Chaos Waste, or when they eat Warpstone, for example, so rat spawns are not completely out of the question. It gives you the same functionality, and they've got poison attacks too, which is pretty good. And yeah, I mean, these are your hard hitters, if anything else. It does make it a little bit easier for you, because obviously you've got unbreakable creatures, which are generally quite strong, but it's nicer. You can keep on theme. Lots of infantry, lots of spawns instead, rather than focusing a lot on, like, you know, weapons teams and stuff. Think about it this way: with all the mutations and the spawns, you could be playing the Skaven version of the Warriors of Chaos, which is cool. So this mod hasn't been out for too long and actually just released today, so I've only been able to play for a little bit, but I will give you my findings. Like, for example, yeah, very unique. It was actually really interesting because you never know what you're going to get. You start recruiting some Skaven and then maybe they're just not good. Maybe they're very, very strong. Maybe your Skaven slaves start performing better than your Storm Vermin. It's actually really funny to see the element of randomness creep in into such a unique and frankly funny way to do so. Yeah, it still plays like a Skaven faction, and that's the main thing. If you want to play Skaven and just add a little bit more strangeness to it, this is probably going to be something for you. I will say that the start is kind of rough depending on what you decide to do, mostly because, you know, the Cathedral gates themselves are quite well defended. This, what you can see on screen right now, is literally going in to fight this, and they can hold back, you know? So obviously waiting a little bit and picking up some Skaven slaves to add into your roster might be a good idea, or turning around and fighting them. What I'm doing in my own campaign right now is I'm slowly moving into the Chaos Waste whilst also still fighting the Cathayans. So I'm having that type of campaign that you would do with Village, but I'm using this Skaven to eventually kill Archaon and become the true Everchosen. I mean, a little smaller and furrier than usual, but it could work. Honestly, you might want to try this. Again, as usual, in periods such as this, where we're not getting a lot of news from Creative Assembly, where obviously it's going to be a bit farther away from DLC and so on. Mods like this keep the game alive, you know, a little faction mod here and there gives you reason to play in a totally different and unique style. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.